There he is. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the OCNJ Local, your podcast for everything happening here in America's greatest family resort. We're your hosts, Domenick Dougherty and Drew, aka Funky Fasy.
And we are your local guys.
You know, when I do get around to upgrading the studio and doing all these things, I think I'm going to leave this music, Drew. It's
I love it.
it's too good not to too good to go anywhere else, I think, at this point. So, anyway, we're going to keep this one short, people. We promise. Fingers crossed. If you're watching on YouTube, my fingers are crossed. If you're listening anywhere else, my fingers were crossed. Today's topic is in the zone. Tonight, we have a very anticipated meeting of the planning board, something that not really doesn't happen very often, I should say. The reason for this is the property at 600 Boardwalk, the former Wonderland pier, is going to be determined whether or not it is considered an area in need of rehabilitation. So, anything that involves 600 Boardwalk and the former Wonderland pier automatically, raises the stakes of gets you emotionally triggered, if we will, in 2026. So
it's controversial, right? It's
Yes.
controversial. So the debate is really whether that property is in need of rehabilitation. The opponents argue that the rehabilitation status is a dangerous precedent, and that next thing you know, if it's granted, there's all the stores on the boardwalk are going to be gone, and it's just going to be hotels because other property owners will
want to cash in
status. Yeah,
they'll want to cash in.
Proponents of the of it meeting that criteria and moving forward argue that the north end of the boardwalk is basically dying and needs a new anchor at that end of the boardwalk to bring in business, right?
Yes, and the opponents also say that the hotel or the potential hotel project, which would be move forward if it is declared an area in need of rehabilitation, will not be an anchor. It will not draw people down there to see it. So
they think only amusements will.
Only amusements will, and that amusements are what the boardwalk truly needs. Which, I don't go to the boardwalk to see hotels, and I do go to the amusements. So there is some fact in that. However, is our amusements sustainable in that property, in that footprint at this time? We've gone over this at length, and unfortunately, just putting amusements there does not seem like a feasible business at this time.
Viable business operation.
Yeah. So anyway, there's a couple other things on the agenda tonight. This is the first planning board meeting of the year here in Ocean City. So you have your standard meeting operations. They're going to go over officers. They're going to appoint officers of the board, do things, some clerical work. There's one other item on the agenda. It's the proposed redevelopment or not redevelopment, sorry, I don't want to use that word. The proposed renovations at the Coral Sands Hotel on 10th Street, and then the big 9th Street. And then the big one is obviously is 600 Boardwalk, an area in need of rehabilitation. Now, a lot of people are saying, when you look at this from an emotional standpoint, how is a beachfront property valued at $25 million by the owner an area that is in need of rehabilitation? That doesn't really seem to fit that word, rehabilitation, $25 million beachfront lot. They don't usually go hand in hand. When you think of rehabilitation, you think more of like a old factory or, an area that
That's
has
blighted.
been blighted and has been vacant for an extended period of time. So, Drew, you did a little research here. Why don't we go
Yeah. So
through the law and what it means to be an area of rehabilitation?
yeah. So it's not an opinion, right? This all falls under the New Jersey local redevelopment and housing law, and there are 6 criteria that a property needs to meet. Excuse me. There are 6 guidelines, and a property actually only has to meet one of the criteria um, to to gain that status, right?
Yep.
Um, it has to be deteriorated structures, number one, pattern of vacancy, underutilization. The other 2 are, help me out here, Dom.
So you said deteriorated structure, a significant portion of the structures on the property are in a deteriorated or substandard condition. You have underutilization. There is a persistent pattern of vacancy, abandonment, or underutilization of the property. Aging infrastructure, the water and sewer infrastructure serving the area is at least 50 years old and requires substantial repair and maintenance. Environmental contamination. Environmental issues are discouraging private investors' investment or improvements. Tax arrays. There is a persistent arrearage or overdue status of property tax payments. And the other one that I have is aging housing stock. More than half of the housing units in the area are at least 50 years old. Um, Less
Right. So
applicable.
that's 7, and
Yeah.
that's 7 criteria,
I
and
think we doubled up on one actually. I think the underutilization and the pattern of vacancy were kind of lumped into one in the research that I did.
okay, they're actually two separate items,
Oh,
and
really? Wow.
yeah, they're 2. Pattern of vacancy is one, and underutilization is the other.
Okay.
So if you, well, we can talk about those. The pattern of vacancy. So the property, the amusement park that sat there for generations closed down in October of 2024, as you know, and it's a 2.5 acre parcel. This past summer in 2025, there were some stores that were
4
open,
businesses in
yeah,
that area.
on the boardwalk that took up a pretty small footprint of the building that sits on the boardwalk, but the rest of the property sat vacant. So, you know, most of that 2.5 acres sat vacant. So, I guess the question is, does that meet a pattern of vacancy, um,
So
or
so before we
is it
before we get into
underutilized? Go ahead.
but before we get into this, I think the most important thing going for this is to take all emotion out of this when looking at this.
Yes.
Take all of the emotion that you have connected to Wonderland, all of the emotion that you have connected to this debate, to everything surrounding the property, and just look at it straight in a factual perspective.
Which
Not,
is what the
well,
planning board is going to do tonight. We were talking about them only focusing on this law and these criteria, right?
correct. So,
Nothing about the potential use. It's not about a hotel. It's not about wanting the amusements to reopen. None of that.
yeah. So if you do plan to attend the planning board meeting tonight, they've put out a specific request that if you do wish to make public comment, you speak only about the property and whether or not it is considered in need of rehabilitation. Anything talking about a hotel or a future project or zoning or anything that is outside the scope of does this meet one of these criteria in the law will be considered out of order. And they're doing this just because, at the last city council meeting, there were 83 public comments. the meeting was almost 4 hours long. So I think it was 3 hours and change. So, which is almost four. So I don't know why I double said that, but I did. Anyway, um, so again, if we're going to stick at this, do the same thing the planning board did here when we discussed this, you're right, Drew, is 4 properties on a 2.5 acre parcel of land. Is that underutilization? The whole back half of the property was not opened. Everything was contained in that front warehouse section. So yeah, I would say that's a big underutilization of a prime space.
I would agree, but I think the so the pattern of vacancy and underutilization are probably the lesser of the criteria that property meets, in my opinion. I think the deteriorated structures. It's pretty common knowledge that the upper deck pilings are, for all intents and purposes, shot and need to be redone. Right. Um, in fact, I think I'm sure there was an engineer study that was presented that they estimated between $7.5 and $10 million worth of infrastructure improvements necessary for that property, to that upper deck anyway, to be safe and sound.
Yeah,
So
so
I think
that's the
right
area.
there meets that criteria for sure.
Well, you have that area, and then you also have the unfortunate incident that took place around the Ferris wheel where the ground underneath, the worker shifted and causing him to fall and lose his balance and unfortunately lose his life. So even that area of the park is also in need of some work as well too. So that, I think, and I agree with you, that is the number one criteria that I feel that the area that area meets. It's past its prime. It needs to be completely gutted, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, yeah.
There he is, the big guy sneaking in.
Um, so, we're talking about this, and the planning board is going to discuss this tonight, but they're not coming into it blind, right?
No.
I'm sure that they have all worked over the course of the past, roughly month, since this was sent to them, and have all their information lined up and reviewed, and I'm sure discussed amongst them,
Yeah. So
including that engineer's report.
yeah. So I mean, we will see. It's in their hands now. Again, it's just kind of like it's a tough situation to be in. You know, you it's hard to take emotion out of an emotionally charged subject, and that's what they're going to have to do tonight. They're going to have to make a decision based on facts, based on criteria of the law, and not on how they feel about the property and the city.
So, and then the next step, right? So they're going to, I believe that they are going to vote on this tonight and
Yes.
vote on yes or no. Is this property should this property be deemed in need of rehabilitation? So what would, if they do, um, and I predict that they will, uh, in a split vote,
Yep.
it will send this back to city council. And the city council would then need to pass an ordinance formally declaring the area in need of rehabilitation, and then adopt a redevelopment plan for the property.
Yeah. So if they do vote, then like you said, Drew, it'll go back to city council, and then this is where city council can lay out what it means to be, what can go on in that area of rehabilitation. So we will see.
And they can require certain things, right? So, going back to when we met, when we recorded with Wes Kasmark and Caitlin Quirk, at the time, it was just those two business groups that were supporting the hotel. Subsequently, all the businesses in town have supported it. But at that time, they made it very clear that they only supported it if the plan included some of the amusement elements that were originally proposed, right? So city council can require that, and they can do it in a number of ways. One of which I suggested previously is that a percentage of the property would have to be dedicated to amusements, and that's deed restricted. So that's a requirement, not just for the first year, but forever.
Yep.
That's just one way. Sure,
and it goes back to kind of like when we had Councilman Lovechuck on last time. He said that putting this area in that need of rehabilitation gives the city the best negotiating standpoint. The city can negotiate with the developer. They can make terms and, kind of go back and forth. I think even when we had 2050 on, they talked about that as well too, is like, putting it into that, there's going to be negotiation, and having that redevelopment zone gives us the city, the ability to negotiate with META to, get a property or get a project approved that benefits everyone.
right.
So, well, we will see. I will continue to say we will see. As of now, I'm planning on going up there and doing a little bit of live streaming to bring the planning board meeting to everyone. So we will see. We will see. But if not, we'll come back tomorrow. Drew, can you come back tomorrow and we can update everybody?
Sure.
All right. Well, we will see you all tomorrow if we don't see you tonight. This has been the OCNJ Local in our shortest recording ever. Your podcast for everything happening here in America's greatest family resort. Peace out, everybody. Got the tongue out there, Drew, on that one. That was a good beat drop.